just ask it, and we have enough time for Q&A. So primarily, I have four sections in this. So first is starting with the why you want to do higher studies. Second is when it comes to choosing the course and university. Third is when it comes to choosing the country, and just fourth, a small bit about how IEEE has helped me personally in this journey. Now, starting with the why. So probably to just give a bit of background, this is my 13th year being a IEEE volunteer. I came to Australia for my higher studies with Monash University in 2017. Now, to kind of give you, every person has a different journey, but just to kind of convey, how serious and how long you should plan. For me personally, I started my studies in 2017 February, and I started my research for my higher studies and everything in June of 2016. So that's close to 8 months prior to actually starting my studies. I started the whole research. Not everyone has the same journey. I know people who have probably taken the decision in a few months and then just gone ahead with it. But uh, from my personal experience and from seeing a lot of my friends who have gone abroad for their higher studies, what I've seen is the more time you give yourself to plan and kind of take a good decision around why you want to do this, the better. So starting with the why is first question, and these are the two questions which I would ask is this: you should ideally ask yourself, why do you want to go for higher studies right now? No one can answer that for you. So you first need to be very clear what is the reason that you would like to go for pursue higher studies, especially abroad and all those things. Why do you want to do it right now? Is it because you really want to just let's say you've just recently completed your undergrad degree and you just directly wanted to get into higher studies? Or is it also like because of COVID, you're actually not getting a job and you just don't want to sit at home and do nothing? So probably higher studies looks like a good option, because there's nothing wrong in that. I've seen a lot of people actually follow that path also. So there's nothing wrong in that. But it's you have to be really, really, really very clear. Why do you want to why do you want to pursue higher studies at any given point of time? And that comes to the second question. Why do you want to study abroad? Again, that's again a very personal decision. So is it because for the field that you want to pursue a master's in or higher studies? Is it because none of the universities in India are good enough for that, or like none of them are actually have the right course that you would actually want to pursue? Or is it because you just want to immigrate and you want to eventually settle in another country? Is that the long-term pathway that you have in mind? Or is it because you probably did your undergrad in India and now you just want a global experience of studying in a different country, probably working there for some time, or maybe even getting that experience and coming back to India? So for me personally, to be very honest, when I really started with my whole decision of doing higher studies, I initially had no plans of going abroad. For me, it was like, if possible, I'd just like to do somewhere in India. But the more I explored the detailed course structure, I actually didn't find anything that was or something perfect based on what I wanted to do. And when it comes to doing a master's, it's not, to be very honest, it's not like an undergrad. So a master's should be like the final decision. You should be really crystal clear that this is what you want to do probably for the rest of your career. So it's a huge decision. So for me, it started with exploring universities in India. Did not exactly like what I was, seeing the course structure, course curriculum, and then eventually started looking for options abroad. So these are two questions you should start with asking yourself. The second comes with terms to course and university, and this is where it gets more detailed. So probably one of the first things you need to understand is each university might have a different name for the same course. So when, again, looking back when I was doing my research, so I eventually did a master's in communication and media studies. Now, some universities had it as just like a master's in communication. Some had it master's in communication and media studies. Some had it as MA in communication, so Master of Arts in communication. Some had Masters of Science in communication. So it varies very much from country to country, from university to university. So just because two universities have, let's say, the very same name, is need not necessary that the course structure or the syllabus should be the same, and vice versa. Just because they have different names, it's not necessary that the course should be very different. So you would have to start off with your own research, start from ground zero, do a very detailed research, and then try to find out, okay, this is the university, this is how the course is, this is how the structure is, everything. And that kind of takes me to the second part, which is almost every global university will have a complete, like, the syllabus is detailed on their website. Almost every global university has that. Their syllabus usually changes. So on the website, it changes with every semester. In real life, it can even change from week to week. So the good part of it, probably the best part, is it's very detailed. Sorry, it's very up to date. It's very real time. That's something which, from my personal experience, I found to be really helpful. It's not like, probably some of the universities, some of the syllabus which you see in India is, uh, you effectively you have LED screens, but you might still be learning about CRT monitor. Okay, so all the websites of all the global universities, for every course, they have this course structure in detail, they have the syllabus in detail, they even have a list of all electives, what are the different pathways you can follow, what are the different specializations, if you have to do a research thesis, what are the different options for that. Everything is given in pure detail in almost all the global universities websites. So, look at that detailed syllabus and find out that, okay, is this something that you would like to do? Don't just go by the name of the course. Also look at how the course is offered, in some places, and again, like, this session primarily higher studies. When I say most of you, like majority of people in India, they usually look at doing a master's abroad. So, look at how the course is offered. Is it a postgraduate diploma? Is it a master's? Or some places it's kind of, they also have an exit option where, even though it might be a 2-year master's, if you end it in 1 year, you might not get a master's, but you still get a graduate certificate, which is something like a diploma. Or in various universities, they also offer it as double degree. So even probably after starting your course, maybe even midway, there is an option to do a double degree where you can probably combine it with something else. So for example, when I studied, so for my course there was no double degree, but let's say if someone was doing a master's in accounting, uh, after completing the first 2 semesters, so like completing half of the course, they could still choose to do a double degree with accounting plus law. So, various universities offer that option, and it's not compulsory that you actually think of that right at the beginning. You can even, universities give you the option to choose that pathway even after you've started your course. So to understand well how the course is offered, so that then what are your different options down there. Coursework and research. So various universities, especially when it comes to masters, they offer it in 2 different pathways. Now it's either a coursework or a research. So from an Australia point of view, if I can be really specific, a coursework is just like doing a regular master's degree. Every semester you have a specific number of units. You need to accumulate a certain number of credits, and you just continue like that for 4 semesters or 2 years. A master's by research, usually how the format is, for the first 2 semesters, you will have regular units, like maybe depending on the course, 2, 4, or 6 units per semester. And then ideally in your final year, so the final 2 semesters, you would have a research thesis, a very long research thesis that you would have to do. Some case, majority of the cases, students go for the master's by research option when they would like to pursue a PhD going forward. So that's what a lot of people do. But at times it's kind of like people just do it because they like to get a thesis done in their profile. So it depends. It's completely up to you. And again, it's not a decision that you necessarily should take before probably at the time of admission. You can even take it uh, after you have started your course. For me personally, after I completed 1 year, I was doing a coursework. I actually did give it a thought of doing it by master's by research, but then eventually I decided, no, I'm happy to do it in a coursework way. Duration, look at the duration of your course. Not most master's degree are 2 years, but not every country or every university offers it like a 2-year degree. So majority or most of the universities in UK, for example, with my limited understanding, most of the universities in UK offer it as mostly it's as a 1-year degree. Now that's how they offer it, but you also need to understand that a 1-year master's degree is probably not of the same value everywhere. There might be some countries which value it. In India, with my limited understanding, what I understand is if you have a 1-year master's degree, it's not exactly given the same value as probably as that of a 2-year master's degree. But again, it varies from country to country, situation to situation. And the other thing you really need to understand is some countries, especially if you plan to, after doing a master's, you plan to work there for some time, or you probably even want to settle there. What you need to understand is some countries have a criteria that your master's or whatever degree you're doing, you should have done it for at least X period of time so that you're eligible for, let's say, a post-study work visa or work rights. So if I take the case of Australia, in case of a master's, it should be at least, say, 2 years. It should be at least 24 months degree, else you will not get work rights. So a couple of people I know, when I did my master's, the issue that happened was, and those 2 years have to be in Australia. It's you cannot go on exchange program. So a couple of my friends whom I know, what happened with them was they did a 2-year masters, but they went to, let's say, some university in US or Europe for a 6-month exchange program. So now the issue what happened was, even though they have effectively done a 2-year degree with an Australian university, 6 months of that was spent or effectively done studied in a different university outside Australia, and so they were not eligible to get a post-study work right or work visa. So just be, if that is one of your focus, just also have that understanding how the duration of the course and the duration of the course getting being done in that country is of value when you're looking at post-study work rights. Fees, obviously fees is a huge thing, especially during the present scenario. Now, working in the university sector, one thing which honestly saying and obviously, starting my journey as an international student, one thing which I've seen a lot of universities, global universities do the last 1 year is, even though what they are teaching, majority universities still haven't gone completely on campus. A lot of them, a few of them are doing it on a hybrid model, and a lot of them are still doing it completely online. But what I personally feel is not right is that even though universities are giving it online, they have not decreased the fees. So that's again a personal opinion. So, but again, it depends on your financial situation. So you need to also understand that studying in a global university, in an international university, it's not just about getting a degree from that place. It's about that global, that international exposure you get, about being on campus, about interacting with others. It's a mixture of all those things, and a lot of those things are missed out if you're just doing it online, especially if there is no fee reduction. So understand how the fee structure is, understand how the fee can increase, because probably 99% of the situations, the fees that you pay in your first semester is not going to be the fees that you pay in the last semester. There will always be inflation, there will always be an increase in the fees. So have that understanding, look at your own financial situation, look at the long-term prospects that, okay, if you take an education loan, okay, I'm doing it for 2 years of masters, it's probably going to cost me, I don't know, what, 30 lakh, 50 lakh, 60 lakh, depending what course, which country. What are your financial situation? How do you plan to kind of repay back the loan? So what I see, even in my own case, and various of my friends here in Australia, is literally everyone comes here with the option that, okay, I'll do a 2-year masters, and then the 2 years post-study work rights which I get, I will use that to kind of probably pay back most of my loans. Because after studying here, the 2 years of working in Australia, for that example, you can actually pay back a majority of your fees, if not all. So you need to have that financial planning also, as to know how it is going to affect you personally. And then in terms of the financial planning, it also comes to a lot of things about, how can you work part-time and everything. So I'll come to that later. The last point in this would be credit points. So a lot of universities, a lot of courses in a lot of universities, they actually give you credit points based on if you have done a particular subject or unit in your bachelor's, or you can even exchange credit points for your existing work experience. So a lot of universities offer that. I'm not sure if every university offers that. So the benefit of that is, so let's say, for example, you are in the field of IT and software, okay, and you have probably 3 to 4 years of experience. You come to a international university to do your masters, and then you apparently have to study a unit called software engineering. but you ideally don't need to do that because you've probably worked in that industry or you've studied that already. So you can actually claim those credit points, and the benefit is, one, you don't have to study an additional subject or unit, and the second, you actually get your fees reduced for that particular unit. So usually, say for example, if you have 4 units and you have to pay for those 4 units, if you get credit points, you would actually have to pay for only those 3. So it makes sense. It makes a lot of sense to try to understand, which course you're going to do and which university you're going. Can you claim credit points for any of the units that you plan to study, or does the university actually offer that option of kind of reclaiming those credit points? That brings me to the third section, that is about choosing the country. The first and probably the foremost thing which literally goes through everyone's mind is the post-study work rights, or if you're planning on immigrating to a country, obviously higher studies is a good option. You need to varies country by country, and even within countries it doesn't remain the same. So I have been in Australia for 4 years now. In these 4 years, Australia's immigration policies have probably changed 50 times. Okay, it's not the same as how it was when I came here. It's not as easy as it was way back in 2017. So you need to explore and research really well what are the post-study work rights. And again, like I said, it varies from country to country. So until recently, I believe UK did not have any post-study work rights. So if you do a 1 year or 2 year masters, I think they were not offering any work rights for international students. US, on the other hand, if you have done a masters, I think if it's a STEM course, you get 90 days to find a job. If it's a non-STEM course, you get 60 days to find a job. And if you find a job, then the company sponsors your visa, and then that's kind of fine. I think for a maximum of 6 years or something, I believe. But then that's absolutely fine. If you don't find a job in that space of 60 or 30, 60 or 90 days, then you have to go back to your home country. In Australia, it's completely different. If you have done a 2 year masters, you are by default eligible for your 2 year work visa. And it's not necessary that you even have to work. So you get a 2 year work visa by default. You work, you don't work, you party, no one cares. They give you a 2 year work visa. But then after that, staying back after those 2 years is where it gets difficult. So all those things you need to understand. And again, like I said, you will have to your own research based on the country you're going to. And another thing, which a couple of pointers I would very strongly recommend is, one, if you are taking the help of an educational consultancy agency, just don't blindly trust them. Like they say that, oh, Australia is a really good place for immigration. You should get into this university. They are really high ranked, and you will get it. All that. Do your own research. Okay. In the last 1 year, I've had at least 40 to 50 people reach out to me on LinkedIn message and say that, oh, I'm planning to do a higher studies in Australia. What are your thoughts? To be very honest, I'm like, see, depends on a lot of things. If it's nursing or core tech, I would say, yeah, it's really good to do it. But then if you're really looking to immigrating to Australia after doing a higher studies, Australia is a really bad option for, let's say, at least for the next 3 to 4 years. Uh, Last couple of years, I've seen the whole narrative around international students. Last year, when COVID came up, countries like Canada, they were like really supportive of international students. The Australian government literally was like, "Oh, if you can't support yourself, just go back to your home country. That's it." So all those minute details, very honestly, educational consultancies won't tell you. You have to try to get in touch with someone who is in that country, who is been through that situation, because they can give you the ground reality. Educational consultancies, they just I mean, to be very honest, they just get commission based on which university they are sending you to. So even my case, when I started with seeking advice of educational consultancy, when I started my whole journey of doing a master's, they offered me 3 to 4 universities which were not even in my site. I was like, those are too lowly ranked for what I want to do. They told me, you are never going to get into Monash based on your academic your history of undergrad and everything. You're not going to get into Monash 100% for sure. They had told me. I eventually did land up. So it's about doing our own research, getting everything right, and a lot of factors come into play. So yep, do your own research, and definitely do not just listen to what an educational consultancy says. And at the same time, uh, when I say that second part is something I would like to clarify again. Try to get in touch with someone who is in that country, because from sitting, probably sitting in India, searching on your laptop, you might be like, oh, this country is a really good option. Oh, it's so easy to immigrate and everything. But unless you get in touch with someone down there who knows the intricate details of it, it might not be a really good picture that you get. So do your research. Again, definitely look at what are the career opportunities after studies. Based on the course that you're doing and based on the timing, and based on which university, which city you're going, which country you're going, explore what are the career opportunities that are available. So coming to Australia, I actually very well knew that getting a career opportunity in the field of communication or corporate comms is not going to be easy. I came here with that realization. I knew it because as far as I had heard and my research in Australia, for non-STEM and not non-tech fields, they usually prefer Australians. I knew that, but I was like, this is my goal. I'll get it done. And so the 2 years of masters, I actually started laying a foundation so that effectively after I complete my studies, it's easier for me to get a job. So it's a mixture of all those things, but do explore that aspect of what are the career opportunities after studies in that particular country. Look at the weather. Definitely, a lot of people are now going to Canada, and from what I've heard, not everyone can adjust well to the climate there. So not just Canada. A friend of a friend actually went down to, I think, Iowa in US, and she was saying during winter the temperature goes down to -30, and she just cannot adjust to it, and which is actually affecting her studies. So even though it might seem trivial, do that research around would the weather be suitable for you, and is it like is it the same weather throughout the year. So before I came to Australia, I was under the impression that, oh, Australia is a hot country, Melbourne would be, I'll probably be walking around in shorts and a t-shirt most of the time. But after coming to Melbourne, I actually understood that out of 12 months, probably 7 to 8 months, it's actually winter. So that was a harsh reality which I came to realize because I did not do my research well. Language requirements. Now, I mean that in two ways. So, if you're going to primarily English-speaking country, you'll definitely need to do a IELTS or a TOEFL or a PTE exam for your English language requirements. You need to pass that with a minimum score, or think of it the other way also. If you are going to a country like in Europe, say Germany, and you will need to learn German, is that something that you're capable of? Is that something that you're, let's say, comfortable with? So you need to take that decision for yourself. Culture shock. I'd say there's no way to prepare you for it. The only thing I can say is if and when you're going for higher studies, just be prepared to face that cultural shock that's going to be there. You definitely cannot go to a different country and be like, oh, I'm from India, I'll just follow my own, I'll just be like I was back in India, I'll just follow the way I am. I'll not let the India go out of me. Like, you cannot. When you are in a different culture, you have to respect the culture. You have to try to mingle with the culture as much as possible. But obviously at the same time you stick to your roots, but be wary of that. Try to do as much research as possible about the culture of a place. And when I say culture, a lot of things, how people greet each other, how people behave with each other, how the work culture is, how the food is, all those things. Cost of living. So again, do some, especially coming back to your financial situation, understand the cost of living. That varies from country to country, varies from city to city. For example, in Australia, Melbourne, its cost of living is not the same as that of Sydney, it's not the same as that of Adelaide or Canberra. So it varies from city to city. So do your research, because understanding that cost of living aspect would help you understand how do you do your financial planning. And that brings me to what are the options of part-time work. Now, again, like I said, again, that varies from country to country. So for example, when my friend studied in US, did his master's in US, he said the only opportunity they had of doing a let's say any work was they could only work within the university, so as a teaching assistant, teaching associate, tutor or something. Whereas in Australia, for example, it's really difficult to get a teaching assistant job. They are open mostly for PhD students. But on the other hand, in Australia, as a student, you get work rights to do any kind of work, like literally any kind of work. You can do Uber Eats, you can work in a supermarket, you can do a proper office job, anything. So after I came to Australia for around 6 to 8 months, my first job was actually working in a supermarket, before I landed a proper part-time role in the university. But the first 6 to 8 months, I actually worked in a supermarket. So you need, one is you need to understand what are the part-time work opportunities available, what are the work rights you have, and the other thing is, if that is something you're going to do to financially support yourself, you need to be really open-minded that, okay, this is something, in Australia, one really good thing which I've seen, which I honestly did not see in India, is the dignity of labor. That is like every work has its own respect. So people are respectful towards you irrespective of whatever your job is. Now, just coming towards the end, I think I'm slightly over time, but yep, just quickly running through how IEEE has helped me in this journey. So the first thing has been working with volunteers within Kerala, within India, working with the region team or with the global team. I got good exposure into working with a multicultural crowd. And so when I came, effectively, when I came down to Australia to say, settle down, uh, work with other students in group projects, or when I literally started working, it was really easy for me to adapt to that situation. It was really easy for me to sorry work with a multicultural crowd, and that was only because volunteering with IEEE before, prior to that, had given me that exposure already. So I was like, okay, these are the basic communication skills I need to have. This is how I communicate when I meet with a person from a different culture the first time. I do not take for granted any of, let's say, any even something like body language. So, for example, again, one thing which I've seen in Australia is and especially in India, and I would say that especially from Kerala context, if you're not sure about something, you have this weird kind of a head shake where it's like it's side to side, and it's like maybe kind of a thing, side to side, up down, that weird kind of head shake, and which we are very used to. Majority of it, like, really used to. When I did that multiple times in Australia, people don't understand, like, what are you trying to say, like, what do you mean? And so I was like, okay. So a lot of those things, you start understanding that even something as basic as communication skill is not something you take for granted. And then that kind of opens up your mind further, makes you more adaptive, makes you more flexible in communicating with people. Taking initiative, so obviously volunteering with IEEE, with the section YP and all those different societies. I got pretty used to and pretty comfortable with taking initiative, and that actually really was of huge value when I came to a different country to, let's say, even do my masters, or even when I'm working. Because one thing, especially in Australia, what I've seen is anything you do apart from what you're usually expected to do. So let's say if you're a student, and if you do anything additional to your studies, or let's say if you're working and you do anything additional to your existing scope of work, that is seen as a huge deal. That literally puts you out there. So for me personally, to be very honest, having done all those projects and initiatives with IEEE while I was in India, that really got me into that, let's say, phase of mine where I loved starting projects, or very I love starting or initiating projects, and that has really helped me while I did my masters and even now when I'm working. So all these, a lot of these soft skills really help you out, especially when you go into a different culture, into a different society, into a different country. Another point is mentorship. So definitely all the mentors and advisors I had through IEEE, they played a huge role in, especially in helping me take that decision of which country to go to, or which university to go to, which course to select. So for me personally, the benefit was majority of these, let's say, senior people in IEEE, they have industry connections, they have university connections, so they really have a really good idea what which university is good, or what's happening, which industry, which field is good, which course is good, and which industry, which university, all those things. So in that way, that mentorship in IEEE helped me a lot. Like, when I say a lot, quite a lot. And what that eventually landed was, through those mentors in India, they actually got me in touch with their network and their contacts in foreign universities, in some universities in Australia, US, Canada, where I kind of was able to have a chat with them to kind of understand, okay, this is how the university culture is, this is how the study, the study aspect is, and everything. So that network, that contact base definitely helped me a lot in trying to understand or take that final decision of, okay, why this country and why not this country, or why this university and why not this university. So all those information, like all those ground information, really helped me take that final decision of which course and which university to take. And last point is, the IEEE community itself. So after all these things were done, after I boarded the flight and came to Australia, started my studies, I knew no one here, so I just came alone. I had no friends, family, no one. And the first community I got in touch with was the IEEE Victorian section here, the IEEE community here. And the connect came from the then IEEE Kerala section chair. And it was actually, I would say, it was absolutely lovely to see that, they were really open, they were really welcoming. They knew that, oh, this is a new person who has come here as a student. You know, couple of them actually took me out for lunch or dinner, and they kind of got me acquainted with what the food culture is, what the cuisines are. One person helped me with understanding how the public transport system here works, and all those things really help you. So when you go to a new country and you know no one, and you have a community there who are ready to welcome you, who are ready to support you, that definitely means a lot. And as I said, you know starting from that single point of completing my undergrad, working, volunteering with IEEE, getting that support in getting connected with people who work in universities or know about universities abroad, and then finally coming down to Australia and starting my studies and just being part of it. And like they say, rest is history. It has been absolutely wonderful. The whole support. That's mostly it from me. We'll probably get into the Q&A session. Just one another thing before that is, so if anyone's interested, so I do handle these. So if you're doing a studies abroad, you have this statement of purpose. So for the last few years, I've been helping a lot of my friends get into universities and write their SOPs. So I've actually started a workshop for that, a statement of purpose workshop. So if anyone is interested, feel free to register. I have my second batch on May the 22nd, and it's 3:30 p.m. IST. So probably more or less the time right now. Uh, yep, and I'm more than happy to help you. If yep, I believe we can get into the Q&A. If nothing else.
Thank you so much, Vijay Chetta, for this enlightening session. Now we'll move on to the Q&A session. If you have any doubts and clarifications to be answered, feel free to come up. We'll be taking up one by one.
And like I said, just a disclaimer: I'm not an educational consultant. I'm just with my personal experience. This is all based on my personal experience, and of having helped a couple of friends get into US universities, a couple of friends in Canada, Germany, a lot of friends in Australia. So just personal experience based on that. So yes, not educational consultant.
We have a query coming in our
Yeah.
chat, like, is GATE necessary for studying abroad?
No, absolutely not. So Gate has absolutely nothing to do with studying abroad.
Any more queries? Okay. MBA from a top B school from India or a master in engineering management from abroad? Which is the better from your perspective?
See, again, better from my perspective is probably not the right way to put it, to be very honest, because it depends on a lot of things. Like, okay, so you're saying a top B school in India, what is your eventual focus? Like, okay, after doing a master's, do you want to continue working in India? What is your career path forward? Do you want, if you're going to a university abroad, do you want to use that external exposure? And if you're going abroad, how do you handle the finances? So it's a very personal, like I said, it's a very personal decision. Uh, with having none of those contexts, to be very honest, me saying any of those answers will actually bias you to some point. Okay, it would not be the honest thing to do, to be really honest. Okay, it wouldn't be the honest thing to do. So it's kind of like I said, no, it's a personal decision. You need to put up, you really need to like create an Excel sheet of all the pointers of, okay, if I'm doing a master's in, let's say, a top B school in India, these are the benefits. These are, let's say, the pros and cons, benefits and negatives. If I'm doing it abroad, benefits and negatives. And then you need to compare it with what your goals are going forward. So if it's just, let's say, if it's just having that name in your certificate, everything is of the same value. It doesn't make a lot of a difference if it's like, if you just want to continue working in India. It doesn't make a lot of a difference if it's a top B school or if it's a university abroad.
Thank you for answering that. What was the most difficult phase during the admissions?
For me personally, the most difficult phase was waiting for the result. So, after you submit your application, you submit your SOP, you submit your CV or documents, everything. It was just waiting for the result, to be honest. And oh, just another thing, another thing which I think I just forgot to say that. Okay, one thing you need to understand is for your studies abroad, I told you about this workshop, so the statement of purpose. A lot of students think that the statement of purpose is read by, let's say, the faculty coordinator, or let's say the course director or the dean to which course you're applying for. It is not. So the first round of shortlisting actually happens with the admissions department. So every global university has a huge admissions department where they have all these different people who actually sit and do that basic checking of, okay, do you satisfy the academic criteria? So maybe this cutoff of 60-70 percentage of marks in undergrad, history of 0 areas, 4 areas, 10 areas, whatever, and then have a quick run through your SOP, and they're like, okay, shortlisted. So the first round of shortlisting actually happens by those admission people. It's not lecturers. It's not, let's say, faculty people. So I I knew that to some extent. I knew that, and obviously now that I work in the university sector, that is something I know really well. So to be very honest, that initially part of getting to be shortlisted is where it is most difficult, or probably that was, for me, that was the most stressful part, because I know that my application is not being read by a person who is, let's say, who is familiar with my field. This is read by someone who is just doing the admissions for the university. So that initial part of putting in your application and waiting for the result to come was the most stressful, because some universities respond in 3 days, some universities respond in 3 months. So I applied for 5 universities together. The first rejection came in 3 months, whereas Monash, which I eventually got, their response came almost 2.5 months later. So that waiting is actually the most difficult part. And then after that waiting, once you get the admission, then the whole difficult part is obviously it depends on your situation, but getting the finance and all the documents, everything ready.
Thank you. And the next question is how to find scholarship opportunities.
So scholarship opportunities, again, two ways for that. So one is again, almost all the global universities have it on their website. So similar to how they have all the course details in absolute detail, similarly all global universities have like a separate detailed page about all the scholarships that they have and all the different criteria that they have, all the scholarship criteria they have. So that is one. So some universities have it that you would actually have to apply for the scholarships separately. Various universities, for example, in Australia, majority universities, they automatically consider you for a scholarship if you're eligible. So you don't have to, let's say, apply for it separately. You just can just directly, when you put in an application, when you put in your, expression of, sorry, expression of interest to study with a university, they automatically consider you if you're eligible for any scholarship. So both the options are there. So you can either go to the university's website, look at the scholarship details, and then just follow their method on how to apply, or like various universities, they just automatically consider you for scholarships.
Thank you. Any more doubts or queries?
Hello,
Hello.
welcome.
Yes, welcome. Is that Kiran?
Yeah,
Yep.
നമ്മൾ ഈ ജോബ് പ്ലേസ്മെന്റ് ഒക്കെ ഇല്ല, ഇപ്പം ഇന്ത്യയിലെ ഒരു കൾച്ചർ എന്ന് പറയുമ്പോൾ കോളേജിൽ നിന്ന് പ്ലേസ്ഡ് ആവുകയാണല്ലോ. സോ
Yep.
പുറമേയുള്ള യൂണിവേഴ്സിറ്റീസിൽ ആ ഒരു ജോബ് ഗെറ്റിംഗ് ഇൻ ടു എ ജോബ്, ഹൗ ഡസ് ദാറ്റ് വർക്ക്, ആൻഡ് ഈ അലുമിനൈ സപ്പോർട്ട് ഒക്കെ എത്രത്തോളം യൂട്ടിലൈസ് ചെയ്യാം ഒരു ഇന്റർനാഷണൽ സ്റ്റുഡന്റ്?
Okay. So Kiran, I'll just answer that in English because I believe we have a couple of non-Malayali people. So I'll just answer that in English. Uh, so the concept of placement in Indian universities or Indian colleges and abroad is it's very different. So I'm not 100% sure about how it happens in US or Canada, but at least from an Australian perspective, there is no concept like that. So it's not like after you do your probably in the final semester of your studies, you have all these different companies coming in, similar to how that placement thing works in India. That is not there. So that's definitely not there. With my limited understanding, based on what my couple of my friends went through in US also that's not there. You have to individually apply with different companies. So if I take the example of Australia, so instead of such a program where universities go to companies go to universities or colleges and say recruit people, companies have something called a graduate program. Okay, so which is primarily for students right after graduation, and so they welcome freshers and such. So you, just like anything else, any other job, you apply for that and then just follow the usual path. But as such, the concept of placement is not there. Compared to what we are used to in India, that concept is not there. So it's like usually it's as similar to like you applying for jobs and getting in. Now in terms of alumni support, varies from university to university. Okay, so you can definitely tap into the alumni, let's say alumni crowd or community, but again that completely depends on how active your particular university's alumni network is. So for example, so I studied from Monash. Now in the case of Monash, if I can say that, Monash has a very active alumni community. They actually have a mentorship program where if you are a recent graduate, you can actually choose or get connected with alumni who can be a mentor, especially from your own field of interest. So they have all these mentorship programs. But again, like I said, that varies from university to university. Most global universities, I would say, have a very active alumni program because that's something they're really proud of, and that's something they really spend a lot of money in to get their alumni program going strong. So I would say that is a resource if you eventually go into a university you can tap into. But end of the day, short answer, it depends on that particular university and how active their alumni program is.
Thank you so much for answering. The next question is higher education abroad or getting an admission in government college is good?
I didn't quite get that.
Is higher education doing abroad is good,
Okay.
or getting an admission in government college is better?
Okay, so I mean, government college in India, is that what the person ideally meant?
I suppose it's in India.
Okay. See, again, it's similar to that question someone asked earlier, like, should I go to a top B school in India or go abroad? It depends on your particular situation. So let's say, see, if your focus is you want global exposure, you want to work you want to study in an international university, you want to work with companies abroad, you want your whole focus is trying to work get as much international exposure as possible, then obviously that won't happen if you're studying in a government college in India. But then if your focus is that see, I want to work in India, I want to build up a strong work base in India, I want to further my career in India, then definitely a government college is a good option. Okay, and obviously a lot of things come into that. Okay, what's your financial situation? See, education loans also are not a small thing. Okay, I had to take education loans, but luckily for me, I had various aspects because of which I kind of got done through it quickly. But then a lot of my friends here right now, they are still paying their education loans, and it will probably still take them a lot of time to pay back their education loans. And a couple of them have actually gone back to India, because of various scenarios. And for them, it will definitely take longer. because you definitely cannot compare the salary in a foreign country and the salary you get in India. So it's a lot of those things. And again, like I said, it's a personal decision. It's not just one or two factors that can determine, oh, should I do this or should I do that. It is a whole list of decisions that need to be made. So it's probably 40 to 50 small decisions that effectively lead you to this big decision of, should I go here or should I go here. And that's a very personal thing.
Uh, the next question is, which is better to do MS program, state universities or private universities, and what are the major differences?
Uh, okay, so this is, I would say, very sorry, I wouldn't have a perfect answer for this, because state universities and private universities are more of, let's say, more of a US thing. Okay, it's in US where that there is a stark contrast between private universities and state universities. So I'm not sure if I can give a very proper answer, and obviously, take it with a pinch of salt. I'll probably just share with you what I know based on when one of my best friend was searching for universities. So when he was searching way back in 2016-17, what I remember him saying was, a lot of the state universities have, let's say, a better reputation. Okay, and comparatively they might have lesser fees. Okay, whereas there are a lot of private universities also which are obviously much better. So like I'm not sure if Harvard is private or not and all those things, but it's similar to the case of Kerala. Okay, you in Kerala also you have a couple of private engineering colleges which are like really ranked high, and you have uh, quite a few government or that is state government colleges which are ranked really high. But at the same time you have private universities which are not that great, and you have a lot of state colleges, state universities which are not that great. So it depends a lot on the ranking system and everything. I would say probably get in touch with someone who has done a MS in US. I'm really really sorry. I wouldn't be the right person on that, and like I definitely don't want to give you any kind of wrong information. But the whole concept of state and private is very US focused. So if I talk from a Australia perspective, majority of the universities are semi-private, or I would say to an extent you could just say they're private. They have government support, but majority of them are like just private universities. Everyone has some kind of government support, but effectively they are all private universities. So I'm sorry I can't give you a proper answer. Your best bet would be to get in touch with someone who has actually done higher studies in US. Sorry.
I hope all the queries are solved.
Just one more question.
Okay.
Hello.
Yep. Yes, Kiran.
Yeah. So you have said that, right? Regarding the master's program, there will be 1 year tenure, and there will be programs which is of 2 years.
Yep.
So in case if you're planning to work in a private sector, does that really matter? Because I have done some research regarding the UK programs, and it
Yep.
basically is of 1 year. And
Yep.
what I have came to know is that if we are planning to go for some government jobs back in India, which
Yep.
many of us won't, that will be affecting us because they have criteria like that.
Yep.
So if you're planning to go into a private sector, does that really matter?
See, there is no black and white answer, to be honest. In India, in general, so I'm not sure if on paper private companies have a different, let's say, different criteria or anything. If you have done a 1 year master's from a really reputed university, I really don't think any private company would be like, oh, is it 1 year or 2 year? I really don't think they would even it would even matter if it's a really reputed university. But again, if it's like you know if you're just looking at in general, okay, so not on paper but in general what people think of it, I would slightly lean towards the side that majority people do not probably see a 1 year masters as reputed as a 2 year masters. Now the reason for that, and I'll probably tell you the reason for that is not because there's something wrong with what you have studied. The reason for that is because of their ignorance. A lot of people feel that a 1 year masters is not as good as a 2 year masters. It's got nothing to do with what you have studied or the university I've gone to. It's just a ignorance on the part of people who just believe that. And sadly, that is quite rampant. At least with what I have seen, that is quite rampant in India. So even like, to be very honest, even when I was looking for masters, UK was one of the first places I was looking at. My initial plan was I'll do my masters and come back to India. I had no plan of wherever I'm going to do my masters to work there. But when I just said UK, and most of it was 1 year masters, even way back in 2016 and 17, literally everyone in India, like even to the extent some of my mentors in IEEE in Kerala and India, they were like, oh, 1 year masters wouldn't probably have that kind of a reputation that you're looking at. So it's a mixed thing. So you'll probably have to see if I really don't think any private sector company would have a strong criteria that oh, he has done a 1 year master, so he's not eligible. If it's a valued program from from a reputed university, I really don't think that should be an issue at all. So it's a bit of a gray area. It's not proper black and white. It's a bit of a gray area. And I would agree to that. It's a bit of a gray area. But that's mostly because of people's ignorance. It's got nothing to do with you or your university.
Thank you so much for answering that. I hope all the queries are solved.
And if anyone has any questions you would like to ask, just feel free to either email me v.s.p@IEEE.org, or I'm on Twitter as Vijay Paul, on LinkedIn as Vijay Paul, everywhere as Vijay Paul. So yeah.
Okay. Now I invite Dr. Santosh Kumar, Chair IEEE Kochi Subsection.
Yeah. Yeah. Hi to all. Hi, Vijay.
Hi, sir. Good evening, sir. Good evening.
Yeah. It's very pleasant to see you and have you here. And it was very nice to listen to you. You have actually touched upon all the aspects which are to be covered. Thanks for that. So you started with asking why, right? And you were highlighting various aspects where the students has to do research. Actually, Vijay was advising to open an Excel sheet, right? And write down all the things and they do your research before you make a decisions. Yeah. So that was very nice. Actually, you were actually highlighting again post-study works in the country where you landed. Most of the details like whether it is a suitable weather, language requirements, food culture, etc., etc. It was very nice to listen to you. And most importantly, you have highlighted the importance of being an IEEE volunteer. That was the very nice thing we would like to hear from you. And you got mentorship, right? And then taking motivations to taking initiatives, networking, right? How IEEE has been helping you out to chase your dreams, right? So thanks for that. Yeah, and very nice. You have picked up all the questions and answered it very nicely. And you have offered maybe further, right? Those who are interested, they can also ask many things through email or your other communication channels. So that was nice. So thank you, Vijay.
Thank you, sir.
Maybe we will be catch holding you again for another program.
Sure.
And yeah, this was a joint program. So thanks to all the IEEE volunteers for making it a very nice kind of a thing. So thanks to all the IEEE volunteers. And yeah, that's it. I think thanks to the participants as well for your active participation. And I hope this 1 hour has given you much details basically required to how to plan for your abroad studies. So thanks all. Thank you, Vijay, once again for your time and effort. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks,
Thanks, Meghna. Thanks, everyone for this.
Thank you so much, sir. Last year, can you hear me? Like, is there any echo?
Yes, there is a bit of an echo.
Hello.
Yes, Meghna.
Okay. Now I think it's resolved. Yeah. Yeah. I would like to share a small thing. Like last year during the STEP 2020, we had a session with Vijay Chetan, and I was a participant back then. And I really remember your session, like you were delivering all the content tricks and tips and all. And it was really informative and inspiring, which actually eventually made me, like gave me an inspiration to be an IEEE YP today. And I'm pretty sure you will be an inspiration to all the participants who have joined to the session.
Thank you, Meghna. That's really kind of you. Thank you.
Yes. And as a token of gratitude on behalf of IEEE YP and IEEE Kochi subsection, we present you a small virtual memento.
Thank you. That's really nice. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining with us. And I thank you all the participants for making this today. And please fill up the feedback form, which is there in the chat. That's for all the participants. And thank you so much, Vijay Cheta, for accepting and coming today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Thanks a lot.